Greenlight helps kids learn about money the way most of us never did, by actually using it. It's a debit card and money app that teaches kids to earn, save, and spend in real life, not just swipe and hope for the best. Learning happens naturally in the moment. Parents can set limits, see spending in real time, and guide better habits along the way, all in one place, without constant check-ins or cash runs. Don't wait. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/trygreenlight.
Hey now. Oh yeah, look at my life. Hey now, yeah. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road.
Hey now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. Coming up on the pod today, I've got some really great audio for you, and a lot of it has to do with what's happening over in Iran. You're going to hear from Pierre Poilievre and possibly the Prime Minister, although he skipped the debate last night in the House of Commons. So what I do have for you, I will be playing toward the end of this episode. But I want to start off a little bit lighter today. There are other things going on in the world beside politics. So what I want to do now is I want to bring in a fellow podcaster and a good friend of mine. Her name is Tracy Lynn. And Tracy, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for making a bit of time for me.
Well, thanks for having me.
I want to have a conversation before I get to some of the harder stuff. I like to keep it a little bit lighter at the beginning of the pod from time to time. I want to have a conversation about something that you talk about in your pod fairly regularly, sports. And before we get into it, your pod is called
Hot Takes with Tracy Lynn.
How's it going, by the way?
It's going good. You know, we kicked it off a little later in the football NFL season, so now things are starting to pick up, which is great. But there's a lot of country music stuff going on, and you know, country music and sports, it's the perfect combination.
I like that.
Yeah.
There's a couple of football stories, and number one, I love your take on this. Travis Kelce is coming back for another season with the Kansas City Chiefs. What is it? $12 million guaranteed, up to $15 million with his bonuses.
Yeah.
I mean, are we just dragging a senior citizen around the football field at this point? Are we inviting injury when we get somebody who is that far removed from a successful NFL career and put him out there against the best in the league?
I'm getting antsy. You can see I'm moving around in my chair. When I hear his name, it's almost like hearing Aaron Rodgers. It is bittersweet. I have a love-hate relationship with Travis Kelce. He's coming back for 1 year. I can't stand the guy. I think he is so full of himself. I think it's time for him to pack it up. But he does have a great relationship with Patrick Mahomes. So I could see him wanting to come back for that year because he wants to prove to everybody he is not just Mr. Swift.
But if he goes out there and just lays an egg, that's going to be pretty embarrassing, I would think.
Well, his last season should have been embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, that should have been enough to say, you know what, let's focus on the wedding, honey. I'm going to give it up. I'm going to give up the infield, and maybe we'll go off field for his career.
Do you think Taylor Swift plays any role in this? Do you think she said, yeah, I don't really like the idea of you just laying around the house, retired at 30 years old or whatever he is? Maybe you should go back and play with your friends one more time. Is it something like that?
You know what? That's an interesting perspective. I was kind of feeling the same way. I think they both love the spotlight, and they both love, you know, here he's playing on the field, and then you see Taylor up in the box, right? Just like when she's on stage, you pan over and you see him dancing away. I think they just love the spotlight. And I don't know if they would know how to do a relationship if he was not playing.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem very opportunistic for both of them. Is money the inspiration here, or is it really just about trying to prove something?
It could be his ego, because she makes a heck of a lot more money, and she's banked a lot more money in her career versus him.
Okay, while we're talking football, Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. He is a month away from getting married, but he's not getting married now. And the reason is this. He and his fiance went to the Bahamas for a joint bachelorette party. I don't know what the hell went on down there, but all of a sudden the wedding is off with a month before they're supposed to say, I do.
Nothing ends well when you go to a bar, let alone have your bachelor and bachelorette party together with your partner.
Yeah, I don't know that I would ever do that. I love my girlfriend, but even if we did get married, I don't see us doing a joint bachelor and bachelorette party. It just seems a little weird.
No, and I know that there's statements coming out. There's been things that are leaked, and, you know, she's saying it's not because of a prenup. So obviously there's more to this. But they had to have had some sort of explosive argument. And if it comes down to money, guaranteed. Maybe she's just not happy with what she would get if the marriage didn't work out.
I'm wondering what the offer is. I mean, this guy's making what, $20-30 million a season. I have to think that he could afford to pay her out if things go south.
Well, they have 2 kids.
And they have 2 kids, right? Okay, so I mean, what's the major concern here?
I don't know, but I wish I was a fly on the wall during that party. Because,
I know.
And I'm sure that I bet you in the coming days, there will be videos leaked.
I think so too. And I can't wait. I don't know why. Maybe that makes me a bad person, but I can't wait to see it.
And if I was somebody there who put all that money out to go and celebrate this, and then you go around and then you turn around and like, you know what? It's over. We're not doing this. And you've just wasted your money. I'm leaking video.
Yeah. I 100%. I need to see it. Okay. So those are just a couple of the things that you'll be talking about on your pod over the next little while. Again, it is called Hot Takes with Tracy Lynn. While you're here, you're a mom.
I sure am.
I'm a dad. Different kids, by the way. I do want to get your take and as many perspectives as I can, because I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this. But the Canadian government is thinking about going down the same road that Australia went down and banning social media for people 16 and under here in Canada. And I'm wondering, do you think it's going to work?
No.
You don't think so?
No. Scott, you and I grew up in a time where there was no social media.
Thank God.
And we had the same depression. We had the same anxieties. Yes, I will say that kids today have to deal with a heck of a lot more pressure when it comes to their looks and what they have to deal with in their friend group. But I don't think it's going to change anything. You're going to have the ones that are going to be able to fight this, or they're going to be able to get in underneath those guidelines and still open social media.
I think they're going to as well. Yeah. And you know, one of the things that is really... it's on my mind is, you know, I think there's a lot of parents who might get a false sense of security if they actually do put in this ban and they say, all right, don't worry about it, parents. Your kids are safe. We've banned them from social media. Nearest I can tell from my experience coaching and dealing with a lot of young people, the bulk of the stuff that goes on social media that would be problematic seems to not happen really on social media. It seems to happen in the group chats.
Yeah, I agree with you. Those group chats and those private conversations that you have that disappear after you send them.
I think there's a ton of parents that would be mortified if they truly knew what their kid was up to in the group chat and in those one-on-one conversations that people think are private.
Absolutely agree. I do not think that if they get rid of social media and they put a ban, for example, like you're saying, like Australia put a ban for 16 and younger, that's not going to get rid of anything.
No.
It escalates when they get to school.
I think so, too. Is it too much to hit them with it? All of a sudden, you turn 16 and here's your driver's license and here's an Instagram account. Is that maybe too much to hit them with all at once? Should we stagger it?
I don't look what our 16-year-olds are doing these days. You can't be blind to the parties. I'm sorry, but they're drinking, mom and dad. They're experimenting out there.
They're experimenting in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, social media is the least of your worries.
Do you think that kids would get behind this? I'm going to assume no.
I think you'll have a group of kids that are probably like, you know what, I'm all for this, especially the ones that maybe have been bullied or have experienced anything like this. But as I said, you and I both grew up in a time where there was no social media. I can speak from my experience. I was bullied. I was put through hell back and forth in my teenage years. I couldn't imagine if there was social media back then. But I really don't think you're going to get a lot of kids saying, oh, okay, no problem. I don't need social media. That's okay.
Yeah. I'm wondering which apps they're going to ban. I mean, I assume that like TikTok and Snapchat are a given. They're probably going to be gone. But what about ones that are kind of a social network, but not really a social network? And I'm thinking about things like YouTube, for example.
Yeah, that's going to, they really have to figure out which ones they're going to do, because I think if you can't really pick and choose. It has to be right across the board, all of them.
I think so, too. I just don't want parents to get a false sense of security thinking everything is okay, when in reality, I don't know that this is really going to solve whatever the problem is that they're trying to solve. Is it that they're trying to protect kids from being like sexually exploited? I really don't understand why the need for this now.
I think it's going to be really, really hard to make this effective and to enforce this, because there's always going to be that parent, too, that will go in and set up the account underneath a different name or their name, and their kids are using it.
Yeah, I mean, their kids are really, really smart these days when it comes to these sort of things. And if there's a way to get around it, I have no doubt they'll have it figured out by the end of the week.
But then there's the other side of it that if they ban it for these kids, how are they going to be able to survive in a digital world if they don't have access to that?
Well, that's a good point, too. What about something like X, like formerly Twitter? There's a lot of people who get their news from social media. And in a way, you're kind of disconnecting kids from that as well.
It's instant news. You get that way before you're even getting it on TV or any other outlet. X has it right there. So I just think that they're going to be the ones that get hurt in this digital age if they don't have access to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's going to be a conversation that we continue to have in the coming weeks because I know that this is on the mind of the federal government. And because Australia did it, I'm kind of leaning towards we've already made up our mind that we're going to do it. It's really just a matter of discussing the practicality of it.
I think this is the least of the government's worries right now with the way that the world is going and the way that our kids are. And when we deal with mental health and everything else that goes along with it, I just don't think that's banning social media is the answer.
Great chat, Tracy Lynn.
It was so great to be on your podcast, Scott Fox.
Well, I'm excited about yours. Again, it's called Hot Takes with Tracy Lynn. And you're also a fellow radio DJ. You and I work across the hall from each other every morning.
Every morning. Yes, I work for High Country.
So where can people hear you if they're in Southern Ontario? Because you do a country morning show, I think, like I've never heard before. It's really fun. It's inspired. It's intelligent. I think you do such a great job.
Others would say it's a gong show every morning, but whichever, it's High Country 93.9 and High Country 88.5.
93.9 and 88.5.
Yes.
All right. So you're on two different stations.
Two stations all at once.
That's kind of the way radio's going these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're going to hear one person on multiple different stations, and that's just a reality of the business these days.
It is. We're keeping social.
All right. Well, hey, Tracy Lynn, I appreciate your time. Good luck with your pod. Again, Hot Takes with Tracy Lynn. You talk football, you talk sports in general, and you talk about country music.
All country music and sports, yes.
Love it. Thanks, Tracy Lynn.
We just heard from the Prime Minister's office that at least at this point, he does not intend to participate in the debate tonight. That is unacceptable. After changing positions by our count 4 times, Canadians deserve to have a clear statement from the Prime Minister in this House to be accountable not only to parliamentarians, but to the Canadian public, and to clarify what the position of Canada and his Liberal government really is.
That is NDP interim leader Don Davies calling out the Prime Minister for not showing up last night in a debate that the Liberals called for to discuss the situation in Iran. The NDP calling out the Liberals for not showing up for the debate. Why wouldn't the Prime Minister go? They say he had a previous engagement, but it doesn't seem like something that couldn't have been moved to another night. He was at basically a PR event. Why would he not show up for a critical debate in the House of Commons on something as serious as this military action in Iran? Last night, that debate did take place, and one person who was there was Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. Listen to a bit of Pierre.
When the world faces upheaval, when war breaks out, when energy and food supplies are interrupted, we must zero in on what matters most at home and on what we control. We work for Canada and its people. Here is our home. We want this country to be affordable at home, safe at home, and strong at home, so that we can be unbreakable abroad. Put in more academic terms, we must put Canada's national interest first and foremost as we look at this war and what it means and where we stand. That principle should guide us in the present war in the Middle East. So let us start with the regime itself. This is the most prolific terrorist regime in the world, a regime that routinely murders, harasses, and intimidates Canadians. The regime killed 55 Canadian citizens and 30 permanent residents when it fired a missile, an unprovoked missile, at a passenger plane, PS-752, for which there has been no subsequent justice by the regime. Further, let me chronicle the unprovoked aggressions this regime has taken against our country. In 2023, a year-long global news investigation found that there are 700 regime-backed agents operating on Canadian soil for the purposes of intimidating and threatening dissidents who fled the regime. Victims' families and Canadians protesting the regime have reported harassment and surveillance on Canadian soil, according to the RCMP, which has received numerous reports of foreign interference by the Islamic Republic of Iran. In 2024, 2 Canadians were indicted in the U.S. for their role in an alleged murder-for-hire plot on behalf of Iranian intelligence. In 2024, also, agents of Iran attempted to assassinate former Canadian Justice Minister Irwin Cotler. According to a CSIS report in 2024, the regime is, quote, one of the main perpetrators of foreign interference and espionage in Canada. CSIS assesses that Iran will continue to use proxies such as individuals involved in transnational crime networks when its perceived enemies are active in other countries. According to CSIS, as late as 2023, Iran-aligned cyber actors such as the IRGC-linked Cyber Avengers have been targeting Western critical infrastructure, including, and this is important, healthcare and public health, government and information technology, and engineering sectors. In other words, attempting to mess with our technological capability to deliver health care to our people through foreign attacks on our cyber networks.
That was just a little bit of 10 minutes where Pierre spoke last night about the situation in Iran. Hey, I think it's wrong that the Prime Minister didn't show up, especially when the Prime Minister has changed his position. The Conservatives and the New Democrats agree. 4 different positions from the Liberal government. And we still aren't clear on what Canada's official, formal position on this is. Why wouldn't the Prime Minister go last night? Is he hiding, or does he just not want to be put in a situation where he has to clarify? You know, the accusation here is that the Prime Minister is telling one group of people one thing, and then another faction another thing, and he's not actually going to come clean on how he really feels about the military action in Iran. I think that that's something that a principled leader should have no problem talking about. And I will congratulate Pierre Poilievre, Don Davies, Elizabeth May, Yves-François Blanchet. The leaders of the opposition parties were all in the House of Commons last night. The only one who didn't show up was the Prime Minister himself. I'm going to go to a news conference that Pierre Poilievre did outside the doors of the House of Commons yesterday. He did do a Q&A with media, and we haven't heard one of these in a while. So let's find out what Pierre is saying.
In the United Kingdom, I discussed the idea of a new alliance of the United Kingdom, New Zealand, and Australia with Canada to line up our rules so that we can allow the free flow of services, capital, people, and products. This is by eliminating red tape and other unnecessary obstacles and ensuring the free flow of affordable goods, but also allowing us to credential more doctors and nurses and improve life while we diversify our partnerships abroad. In Germany, I met with the foreign minister, the former chancellor, the trade minister, and representatives of over 100,000 German businesses who all said they want more Canadian energy. I went, for example, to Wilhelmshaven, which is the place that they built an incredible LNG plant. They permitted it in 60 days, and they completed the construction in just over 130 days for a total of 200 days. This is really an incredible achievement. The Russians invaded Ukraine in February of 2022. By May, the permits had been granted, and before Christmas, the project was completely done on December 23rd. Shipments began in January of the subsequent year. To put that into perspective, that's 200 days to go from concept to completion. Mark Carney has been Prime Minister twice that time, and he hasn't even permitted a single new pipeline. His major projects office, despite having unprecedented powers, has not permitted a project of any kind in all of the time he's been in office.
I think regardless of how people feel about the Prime Minister, some people like him a lot. The polling seems to indicate that people are a fan of what he is doing. Can we all agree, though, that we got to get moving? We were promised a lot of things that we were told we need to protect our sovereignty here in Canada. But literally nothing is getting done. I mean, this is going at a snail's pace, and the Prime Minister, who does have unprecedented powers now, the Conservatives helped grant him those powers to approve things. He hasn't approved anything yet. Where was the Prime Minister last night? When are we going to start building? You just heard examples there. 200 days. From permit to, was it permit to completion? You can go back and listen to it if you want. Either way, other countries are doing this a lot faster. Other countries want Canadian energy. We have potential customers out there. We all agreed. We've got to diversify our trade markets. There's countries who want to buy from us, but we just can't sell it to them because we're not there yet. And frankly, we haven't even started. Let's get to the Q&A with Pierre Poilievre.
The two questions were in English, do we support the original strike to remove the regime? The second was, what about Canadian involvement? So this is an illegal regime that killed over 150 Canadian citizens, firing a missile at a passenger plane. They have unleashed at least 700 of their agents on our streets to provoke violence against Canada's Persian and Jewish communities. This is a terrorist regime. They have been the single biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Conservatives support replacing that terrorist regime with a democratically elected and peaceful regime. As for Canada's role in it, we're not aware of any specific requests that the Prime Minister has received. If he has, we'd encourage him to share that information with all Canadians so we can have a debate about what we should do. But in the meantime, we have to focus on here at home. Here at home, this war should not be used as an excuse for higher food and gas prices. We have the energy here at home. We have the food here at home to make life affordable. Here at home, we have the resources to fuel our friends and power our paychecks. So let us do that and focus on what we can control.
So listen, whether you like Pierre Poilievre or not, whether you agree with the U.S. military action against Iran or not, one thing you cannot dispute: Pierre Poilievre has been very, very clear about how he feels about this issue. That's something that we're missing from the Prime Minister, and frankly, I don't understand why. This is a serious situation that's happening over in the Middle East. Many people are concerned that it's going to spread throughout the Middle East. Canada needs to have a plan. Pierre Poilievre, very principled in his stance. You know exactly how he feels. How does Mark Carney feel? And why won't Mark Carney come into Canada's House, the House of Commons, and just say how he feels? Why won't he clarify the official position of the Canadian government? There's a contrast here. We know where Pierre stands. We don't know where Prime Minister Carney stands.
You said explicitly it's in our interest that the regime is replaced. Will you say explicitly whether you support what the U.S. and Israel have been doing and whether you believe that any of it is in accordance with international law?
Well, we already said that. We support the action to overturn the regime, because this is a regime that has killed Canadians. They killed over 100 Canadians. They have 700 agents on Canadian streets terrorizing our Persian and Jewish communities, carrying out terrorist attacks against our people. This is the biggest state sponsor of terror in the world. That is why we have not equivocated. We also need to focus on what we control at home, which is here at home, to secure our borders against these terrorists, to bring down energy costs and food prices for our people. And that's what we as Conservatives are going to do here at home.
I mean, hey, that is a principled stance there from Pierre Poilievre. You can disagree with him about whether or not this military action against the Iranian regime was justified, but at least you know how he feels. We can have a conversation about that policy. Again, we still don't know where the federal government stands on this issue, and I find that very concerning. But I am enjoying this news conference. Let's hear a little bit more from Pierre.
Parliamentary Budget Officer, you put out a letter last week about the appointment process. This morning we reported it's going to be Annette Ryan, who's from FinTrack. We're expecting the formal announcement later today. What is your response to that? The House will ultimately have to approve this.
Look, I don't. Mark Carney is trying to muzzle the Parliamentary Budget Office. We had a highly qualified Parliamentary Budget Officer who was calling out Mr. Carney for doubling the deficit, for breaking his promise to lower the debt to GDP ratio, for cooking the books, and for breaking his home building promises. And then all of a sudden, after only months on the job, the Prime Minister throws him out. We believe that the existing interim Parliamentary Budget Officer should have been made permanent because he was doing the job, and it sends a chilling message when the Prime Minister effectively fires someone for telling the truth about his out-of-control spending, his book cooking, his deficits, and his broken housing promises. And now he's going to benefit from silencing other people from speaking out. We'll look at the new nominee's record, and once we have, we'll vote accordingly.
Yeah, that new parliamentary budget officer that has been nominated by the federal government isn't exactly someone that I would call down the middle bipartisan. This is someone who went to Oxford with Mark Carney and with Chrystia Freeland. That's the new parliamentary budget officer. That's who they've put forward. Someone who was in charge at FinTrack. They're in charge of investigating financial crimes. When this person was in charge at FinTrack is when all of the money laundering was going on through TD. This is the person who's now running the parliamentary budget office, the person whose job it is to hold Mark Carney to account. How can a lifelong friend and former classmate hold Mark Carney to account? We had an interim parliamentary budget officer. He was great. Everybody liked him. Around the world, he got praise for speaking truth to power about the government and how they were spending our money. Well, apparently that's not very good for job security because, well, he's out of a job now. This isn't right. You know, if we've got somebody who's doing a good job, all of the opposition parties agree that that was a good candidate, why would we get rid of them just because the government has a few more seats and they don't want to be accountable? That's not right. We had somebody that was doing a great job. There was no reason to let his term expire and appoint someone new other than the government just doesn't want to be very transparent about how they're spending our money.
Let's talk personal style.
Are you a classic jeans and tee minimalist, a Louis Vuitton lover, or do you like a little bit of both depending on the vibe?
Whatever your fashion mood, you can find what feels like you on Poshmark.
With millions of new and pre-loved pieces, Poshmark is your one-stop style destination. From everyday wardrobe staples to vintage gems and luxury labels. Into Reformation? Got it. Carhartt? Got that too. From designer bags to streetwear, it's all there.
Men's? Yes. Women's? Absolutely. Kids? You bet.
And the best part? You're shopping real closets from real people with real style. It's like rating your most fashionable friend's wardrobe.
If you had thousands of fashionable friends. Plus, every item over $500 goes through Poshmark's authentication process. So you can shop high-end with total confidence. Ready to refresh your closet? Head to Poshmark.com, sign up with code PODCAST10, and get $10 off your first purchase.
Go ahead, find your next favorite thing.
I believe you previously said that you believe in an approach of having one prime minister at a time, I believe in the context of why you didn't go to Washington. Can you then clarify why exactly you went to Europe?
Well, I didn't go as Prime Minister. I went there to promote our agenda of selling Canadian energy and integrating our trade with like-minded allies, which is totally a legitimate thing to do. We need to expand our list of markets. For example, in the United Kingdom, they want to be able to trade more freely with us, but there are still a lot of bureaucratic non-tariff obstacles that I propose that we eliminate by signing on to an alliance of CANZUK nations, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, and Canada. In Germany, I pushed for selling Canadian natural gas to the Germans. These are the objectives of the Canadian government. So I'm sure that the Prime Minister was very happy to see me doing that work. Not this particular trip, but I've discussed with him in the past the need for us all to work together to promote, to diversify our markets, to make us stronger at home and unbreakable abroad. And I did so in a very nonpartisan and positive way, and was very well received, by the way.
I don't understand why the media is so hostile towards Pierre Poilievre. You know, if he had not gone anywhere, they likely would have been critical of him. They would have had panels on all the time. Talking heads discussing how Pierre Poilievre doesn't look prime ministerial, how Pierre Poilievre hasn't proven himself on the international stage. So the guy goes out and does a trip that was very well received by our allies over in Europe. He gave some great speeches, got some great moments out of that. And now the media is asking him, well, why did you go? You said only one prime minister at a time. Are they seriously going to try and bait him into going and then criticize him for having gone? That's very, very hypocritical and dishonest of our mainstream media. Let's do one more from Pierre Poilievre. Then I've got some President Trump, and then we're going to wind up with some Doug Ford today.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, gas prices we're seeing are already going up. Food prices are already going up. What would you have the government do in the very short term to address those price increases in the meantime?
Well, first of all, the Prime Minister could get rid of his newly renamed carbon tax, the so-called clean fuel standard, which he estimates adds 7 cents a litre to gas. Why not get rid of that tax, lower the gas price a little bit? Secondly, we used to be sheltered from sudden rises in global oil prices because our dollar would go up at the same time, meaning that our purchasing power would match the more expensive WTI oil price. That's not happening anymore. Why? Because we're not exporting enough of our oil. We have to unblock our oil and gas, increase our exports to have a stronger dollar that buys more affordable food and fuel.
That's not necessarily short term, though. That first bit isn't necessarily short term, though.
Well, the first bit is you're right. I mean, it's like when do you start planning for the future? Yesterday. We should have done, if we had done all of the things I'm describing back in 2022 when I proposed it all, we would be in a much better position today. But here we are after 11 years of Liberals, and all of this is getting much worse. So I would say get rid of all the other fuel taxes that Mr. Carney and the Liberals are imposing, unblock our resources so that we can fuel our friends abroad and power paychecks at home.
Okay. Yeah, the gas prices thing is getting really, really irritating for a lot of people. But one of the things that I'm pleasantly surprised about when it comes to gas prices in particular is Canadians are really starting to wake up and pay attention. Everybody seems to have gotten the message that the gas that's in the pumps at your local gas station, the ones you drive by every day, that's been there probably for several weeks, long before the military action in the Middle East. When the price goes up on the international trade markets, gas stations will raise their price accordingly, even though there's been no change to what they're paying. They're taking pure profit. A lot of Canadians have already realized that when that price spiked up, based purely on fear and speculation, that should not have led to the 20 cent a litre increase that Canadians are facing right now. It's just pure gouging and a flawed system. Well, overnight, the price of oil dropped substantially. It went from $1 or $117 US per barrel to down below 85, I believe, at one point, just under 90. Either way, a tangible drop. Not only are gas prices not going to come back down as quickly as they went up, in fact, they're actually going up again overnight tonight. In Southern Ontario, they're calling for a 2 cent increase, even though the price of oil dropped substantially. What is going on here? And by the way, let me point out, the federal government has no incentive to lower gas prices for us because as the price goes up, so does their percentage of the revenue because they're charging HST. And the HST is on top of the other taxes. Everybody's getting rich here, except for the Canadian people. We're getting completely screwed, and nobody is standing up for us. Very, very frustrating. That was some great stuff there from Pierre Poilievre. He's absolutely right. In the long term, we need to build pipelines. We need to get our Canadian oil out to market. In the short term, it's got to be cutting taxes. That's the only way that's going to bring these prices down to something reasonable and affordable and that makes sense for Canadian people. Good words there from him. I'm going to move on, though. Last night, President Trump spoke to the American people about a whole bunch of different things, some of it kind of nonsensical, if I'm being honest. Here's President Trump last night.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Mr. President, you've said the war is, quote, very complete, but your defense secretary says this is just the beginning. So which is it, and how long should Americans be prepared
Well, I think
for
you could
this war
say
to
it
last
both.
for?
It's the beginning. It's the beginning of building a new country, but they have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft equipment. It's all been blown up. They have no radar. They have no telecommunications, and they have no leadership. It's all gone. So, you could look at that statement. We could call it a tremendous success right now as we leave here. I could call it, or we could go further, and we're going to go further.
Anybody else catch that? You said the war was very complete. The defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, said this is just the beginning. Which is it? He said, well, it's both. Okay, I don't know how it can be very complete and just getting started at the same time. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Here's another one from President Trump. This one's about 1 minute and 10 seconds long.
President, are there any points of disagreement between yourself and your vice president when it comes to U.S. action in Iran?
I don't think so, no. We get along very well on this. He was, I would say, philosophically a little bit different than me. I think he was maybe less enthusiastic about going, but he was quite enthusiastic. But I felt it was something we had to do. I didn't feel we had a choice. If we didn't do it, they would have done it to us. I felt, based on the negotiations that were being had by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner and Marco and Pete and everybody was involved, I felt that they were looking to tap us along before they hit, and I thought they were going to hit. And if they hit us first, that would have been a very bad thing.
Okay, maybe a little dissension in the ranks there between the vice president and the president. That reporter asked that question for a reason, and I don't exactly know what motivated that, but something that I think we should keep an eye on. Is there any daylight between President Trump and Vice President Vance?
You have called him an unacceptable choice. So does he have a target on his back? You have called him an unacceptable choice. So does he have a target on his back? And how can you say
I don't want to say whether or not he does, because that would be inappropriate. But, hey, look, I had a target on my back because, as you people wrote pretty well, they caught the assassin that was after me. So we just got them first. But they caught the assassin. They have him now in custody that was after me. So, but people don't like to mention that, but they did catch him. And I'd like to congratulate our military, Secret Service, FBI, all of the people that worked on that, but they did. Yeah, please.
That's weird. He got asked about whether or not the new supreme leader in Iran, the son of the former supreme leader, has a target on his back. Basically asking, are you going to try and take this guy out too? He turned it right back to himself and how Iran tried to assassinate him. And while there is truth to that, that wasn't exactly the question. I understand why he didn't want to answer it, but that was not the question. Let's do one more from President Trump. A lot of people wonder, why is this happening? Why didn't you try and negotiate with Iran? A lot of the media is not covering this, but the president has made this point before. They did try and negotiate. Listen to this.
Even after we obliterated their key nuclear sites in Operation Midnight Hammer, they never negotiated in good faith. They still continued to say, we want to build nuclear. We want enrichment at levels that were unacceptable. And they even turned down an offer for unlimited free nuclear fuel forever for civilian purposes. We had people offering them free nuclear fuel. They weren't interested in that because they wanted to build a nuclear weapon. So instead, the regime was trying to reconstitute its weapons program at a different site. They couldn't go back to where they were, the 3 sites that we obliterated. But they were starting work at another site, a different site, different kind of a site. And that was protected by granite. They wanted it protected. Granite's pretty good, but they wanted it protected by a lot deeper. They wanted to go a lot deeper, and they started the process while rapidly building conventional ballistic missiles. They were going to do it all at the same time. It threatened our...
Okay, President Trump saying they offered unlimited nuclear power forever. And Iran said, no, we want to do our own nuclear. And they wanted to enrich at levels that would have made it capable of creating a nuclear weapon. Crazy. While I'm doing U.S. politics, this is the last one I'm going to do here. In the U.S., very similar to how we do it in Canada, they have hearings where the politicians get to question witnesses. And sometimes the witnesses are civil servants, sometimes they're fellow politicians, what have you. Yesterday, one of the senators that I like a lot, Senator Kennedy, was asking a question about something that, he's talking about America, but it could just as easily happen here in Canada. In fact, there's numerous examples of situations like this. Listen to this insanity that they were discussing yesterday on the U.S. Capitol.
Do you remember an inmate named William McLean, also known as July Justine Shelby?
Yes, I know who you're referring to.
Okay. Mr. McLean raped a child, didn't he?
30 years ago, the petitioner in the habeas case before me
Did he rape a child?
He pled guilty to that crime. Yes, it's abhorrent.
And then he raped a 17. He raped a little boy, right?
I believe that's correct. I believe he pled guilty to 2 acts of sexual violence.
And then he raped a 17-year-old girl, right?
Again, this case was handled by the state court in Indiana, but I'm
just asking you the facts. Don't stall on me now. Did he rape a 17-year-old girl or not after raping a 9-year-old boy?
I believe that's what he pled guilty to.
Okay, and then he went to prison, didn't he?
Yes, the petitioner was.
And then he came out and he sent child porn, basically adults raping little children, to another sex offender. And he was sent back to prison, right?
The petitioner pled guilty to
Was he sent back to prison?
Well, that case was in the federal system, so...
Was he sent back to prison?
Yes, this time to federal prison.
Thank you. And then he decided to transition, and he became a female and started going by July Justine Shelby. Is that right?
Yes.
And Ms. Shelby said, I don't want to go to a male prison. I want to go to a female prison. And the Board of Prisons said, what planet did you parachute in from? You're going to a male prison with this kind of record. And you sent him to a female prison, didn't you? You said that the Board of Prisons was trying to violate Ms. Shelby, former Mr. McLean's constitutional rights, didn't you?
I issued a report and recommendation to the district judge recommending that the district judge transfer the petitioner to a women's facility.
Wow. That's just 2 minutes of this testimony, but man, was that painful to listen to. This guy pled guilty to raping a 9-year-old boy and a 17-year-old girl. Gets out of prison, gets arrested for sending child porn to another sex offender. Then all of a sudden decides he wants an easier ride in prison. He'd rather go to a women's prison.
Do you remember an inmate named...
Easy, Senator Kennedy. He decides he wants to go to a women's prison, and they let him go. You know, originally the decision was no, you're going to go to a men's prison. But then this person here, the witness, intervened on his behalf and wrote a report that said he should go to a woman's prison. We got to figure out this gender ideology stuff. We have to. There needs to be some firm rules and there needs to be some clarification. This is an issue that we need national leadership on. And while that was American, you got to know there's stories like that happening here in Canada as well. Last thing I'm going to do before I wrap up this episode. Yesterday, Ontario Premier Doug Ford was in, where was he? Alliston, Lindsay, somewhere up there. He was doing an announcement about healthcare. And I'm not going to play any of that announcement because, frankly, I don't have time and I'm tired of him saying the same thing over and over again. But I do want to play just a little bit of the Q&A between Premier Ford and the media yesterday.
Good morning, Mr. Premier. Jamie with City TV. I am asking questions on Ontario Place. There seems to be a disconnect between what you're saying with the island and what Mayor Chow says she thinks renovating or fixing up the convention center will be a better idea. Plus, also, I note that the formerly Molson Indy, now Honda Indy, because of the noise complaints and traffic complaints, moved up to Markham, Ontario. So there seems to be a problem, or not a problem, but community involvement doesn't want a lot of noise and...
First off, if Premier Ford butchers this answer, I don't blame him because, wow, spit it out, my friend. You've got to prepare your question in advance. You don't just go up there and wing it when you're talking to the Premier of Ontario. But either way, the question is still relevant. There's a lot of issues surrounding Doug Ford's plans for the Toronto waterfront. Number one, he says he wants to make it a world-class waterfront, and I think by and large, most people feel that Toronto's a world-class city and deserves a world-class waterfront. But there's a couple of things he's doing here. He's revitalizing Ontario Place, making it an attraction that people will want to go to. Well, that's going to come with a big, massive parking garage that's going to cost way more than I estimate a parking garage should. But that aside, He's also moving the Ontario Science Centre down to the same area. And now it's become known that he wants to fill in and pave over part of Lake Ontario to expand the Toronto Island Airport to allow more jets to land as opposed to the turboprop Porter Airline type flights that are currently landing there now. A lot of different balls up in the air here. Let's hear what Premier Ford has to say.
So I think that what I heard is going up to Markham because of FIFA, right? So I'll probably come back to Toronto, but God bless Markham. That's a good venue. And as for Ontario Place, it's world class. If we didn't make a move, there'd be dandelions still popping up. It's sat derelict for 15 years, not being used. Now it's going to be a world-class venue that people are going to come. And, you know, I had a lot of calls from people from Science Centre over a period of time. Not one single call. Actually, I had one woman call me. And she said, I was against it, and wait until I see you. I'm thinking, oh boy. She goes, I'm going to jump into your arms, and thank you. This is a world-class venue, and we need a world-class convention center as well. Folks, we're 24 out of 25 cities in the world. We're losing millions of people coming for conventions. They aren't even looking at Toronto anymore. Number one, the size of the convention center, you need 2 million square feet. But even the existing convention center, it's, well, we've all been in it. You're going up, you're going down, you're going up, you're going sideways, across the road. Doesn't cut it. It's on 6 acres. We're going to build a spectacular, world-class venue that we're going to be able to go out there and sell to the world. And we're going from last place to first place, and it's going to create billions of dollars of economic growth. So that's what we're going to do, and we're also expanding the airport. We're bringing, matter of fact, I think my Minister of Transportation is there right now with the Federal Minister of Transportation. The federal government's endorsing the plan. That's a crown jewel, and we're going to be taking the load off Pearson, being competitive with Pearson, lowering costs, and more convenient for people, not to mention the couple thousand additional high-paying, great-paying jobs that are going to go with it.
Okay, Premier Ford still reverting to his old playbook of making up stories about things that never actually happened. Do you remember during COVID when he went into some kid named Arthur's backyard? That was a completely made up story. And in this case, he insists some woman who used to be opposed is now in favor of the development on the Toronto waterfront and now plans to jump into Doug's arms to thank him for such a beautiful design. Get all the way out of here. I don't believe that for a second. The Island Airport. This is one that's going to require quite a big expansion. They will have to fill in part of Lake Ontario and pave it over to expand the airport to allow for longer runways so that more jets can land there. And apparently, some internal polling from the Ontario PCs suggests that people are in favor of that. My question is, does it need to be done now? One of the big criticisms that I have of the Ford government right now is they don't seem to be prioritizing what's important or where is important. The premier is going to spend billions filling in and paving over part of Lake Ontario to expand the airport to allow jets and to build a new world-class convention center. And while I don't disagree that a new convention center would be nice, well, I don't really care whether there is or isn't more jets flying out of the Toronto Island Airport. It doesn't matter to me. There's a perfectly good airport 20 minutes north of the Island Airport where jets can land no problem, no questions asked. And there's a great transit line that goes directly to the airport. Do we need this now? And why Toronto? I don't know if Doug Ford remembers that he is the Premier of Ontario, not the Premier of Toronto. And I'm thinking of other regional airports or smaller sized airports in Ontario that if we're going to spend money expanding airports, there's other places that could probably use a little bit better service. And I'm looking at places like Waterloo Region, Hamilton, London. How about Northern Ontario? How about Sault Ste. Marie and Thunder Bay? How about Sudbury? Those airports and the people who live in close proximity to them, I'm sure it would be great to make it a little more easy to fly in and out of those airports as opposed to taking away traffic from Toronto Pearson Airport and moving it downtown. I don't think it's a big ask to ask people to go 20 minutes north to the airport. A lot of cities are set up like that, where their big international airport is slightly outside the city. Toronto is no different. Same with the convention center. There is a convention center. Maybe we're missing out on people. Maybe we're not. We'll find out the truth after it actually gets built. But in the meantime, aren't there other things we should be prioritizing our money on? You know, we are slashing education budgets, particularly when it comes to post-secondary and OSAP grants. We have a major crisis in healthcare. We have a lot of different balls up in the air, and a lot of people are suffering financially, and it seems like Doug Ford is completely unaware and just throwing billions, not millions, billions of dollars at things that are not going to have an immediate payoff and are not going to offer relief for people now. I firmly believe that we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but when dollars are precious, I think you've got to spend them where they're needed most. And nearest I can tell, the place that they're needed the most is in the areas that are squarely in Doug Ford's control. Education, healthcare, and under healthcare, by the way, I add in support for families that have children on the autism spectrum as well. There's a lot of families that are waiting for funding and support, and they can't get it. And Doug Ford's throwing around billions of dollars on legacy projects. I'll be shocked if he doesn't put his own name on it. Seems to me that that's the way this is going, everybody. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of Scott Fox After 9. I appreciate your time today. Hopefully you got something good out of this episode. If you want to discuss anything, you can slide into my DMs at Scott Fox On Air. Today's a big day. Travis Danraj, formerly of the CBC, is testifying in Ottawa. He's going to name names, and he is going to talk about the culture at the CBC. Man, I can't wait for this. Make some popcorn. I'm going to be all over that tomorrow right here on Scott Fox After 9. Have yourselves a great day, and I will leave you, as always, with the sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth. Hey now.
Oh, yeah, look at my life. Hey now, yeah. Oh, yeah, look at my life out here on the road. Oh, yeah, look at my life. Hey now, yeah. Oh, yeah, look at my life out here on the road.
That's the sound of a big deal. At Wayfair, that sound happens a lot. Dream sofa for half the price? Big deal. New dining table you've been eyeing for months? Big deal. Finally picking up those last few pieces and finishing that bedroom? Now that's a really big deal. Whatever your home needs, Wayfair has the selection, the savings, and over millions of 5-star reviews to back it up. Shop Wayfair.com today before someone else snags your big deal.
Wayfair, every style, every home.